My name is Jonathan. I'm a myopia specialist at UCSF, and I'm very excited that we are going to be talking about myopia since this has been a topic that I've been passionate about since I was a resident. In fact, Stephen McLeod's resident at UCSF, and then he hired me on for faculty. So here we are moderating together, and I'm really excited to have this panel discussion with you all. Today we have a great panel of speakers, international. We have Rupe, Hansra, an optometrist by training, Vice President of Professional Affairs at Topcon, where they have one of the premier all-inclusive myopia management suites, which includes a biometer. It's called the Maya. We have Olga Prenat, a global head of medical affairs at EssilorLuxottica, Essilor in their field of optical solutions. They have the strongest published efficacy data and the largest global rollout with 45 countries for their product. Oh, we're missing some panelists here. Okay, we'll go through the panelists. I'll just actually introduce the other three here. We have Dr. Matthew Rickard, professor of biomedical engineering and the co-founder of Blink Frames. They're using AI and technology in their smart frames to encourage lifestyle modifications for myopia. And we also have Dr. Patrick Johnson, president of Sydnexis. He has submitted an NDA for low-dose atropine, awaiting FDA approval, which we're all very excited for. And Daniel Ting, a senior consultant in retina at Singapore National Eye Center, who I met when I was doing my myopia fellowship in Singapore. He's also the head of AI and digital innovation at the Singapore Eye Research Institute and highly versed in AI and myopia. There we go. Thank you. Okay, so originally, the brilliant and well-spoken Michael Chang was going to be here to explain why myopia is so important to the NEI and to all of us. But due to current circumstances, he's unable to be here. He sends his regards. And I will do my very best to introduce my specialty to you in a whirlwind 5 minutes. So what is myopia? It's commonly known as nearsightedness, and it is becoming a rising global health concern. Today, half the world's children are actually on track to need glasses by 2050. This is an off-cited paper in our field by Holden, and you can see by 2050, there's an estimated 5 billion myopes in the world and 1 billion high myopes. It doesn't just stop with glasses for these myopes, though. We're facing an epidemic that could really blind millions by the 2050s, and even currently now. This segment of 1 billion high myopes have risks of these diseases that I've listed here: cataract, glaucoma, retinal detachment, macular degeneration, some of which can cause permanent vision loss. So until very recently, myopia has been one of the biggest under-recognized vision threats of our time, but also a massive innovation opportunity. Already in countries like Taiwan and Singapore, 90% of the youth are already myopic. However, the United States is not that far behind. The prevalence of our myopia has doubled in the last 3 decades, and 58% of our population is projected to be myopic by 2050. And back in 2015, the global economic burden of both reversible and irreversible vision loss from myopia was estimated to be 244 billion, and obviously much more today, a decade later, and will continue to grow. So anatomically, what is myopia? This is caused by axial elongation. So you can see here in a normal eye, the focal point is at the retina, but with myopia, the eye continues to grow unregulated, and the light rays fall in front of the retina, and this stretching of the eye, where all the tissues, such as the retina and the vasculature that supply the eye, become more and more fragile, this is what puts children at risk of disease later. So you can see here, we measure myopia in diopters. Even low myopia between 1 to 3 diopters can cause increased risk of pathology. But when you get into high myopia, which is 6 diopters or more, you can see that, for example, MMD, which is very vision threatening, you have 41 times risk of developing this in adulthood. So why is this epidemic happening now? There is genetic factors, but really it's the lifestyle modifications that have played on these genetic factors that have caused myopia to explode in recent years. Lack of outdoor time, near work, and urban living, all of which were even worsened during COVID, have caused myopia to get worse and worse. Myopia control is really important. So Many eye practitioners, especially still in the United States, believe that myopia is maybe just still a refractive error issue. They prescribe glasses or contacts, and the patient's on their way. However, as I've just shown you, later in life, they'll be at risk of vision loss that may or may not be reversible. So for myopia control, we try to halt this progression. Every diopter matters when we're trying to slow down the axial elongation of the eye. This reduces the risk later in life of all the diseases that I just showed you and helps to preserve vision through aging. I have a lot of adults in my myopia clinic that see the children getting myopia control, and they're very wistful because they wish that something like this existed in their time because now they've already lost vision and it's currently irreversible. As I go into the most common modalities for myopia control, I think what's very exciting about this space is that it's really multimodal. So it includes health tech, medical devices, biopharma, and you'll hear all about that from our panel today. So one of the first things we ask for our myopia patients is to perform lifestyle intervention. Outdoor time, less near work, and good lighting are all things that can be first-line alterations. However, even though we often ask patients to do this first line, these interventions are subjective and very difficult to measure. So when it comes to things that we prescribe, mostly in the United States, we're prescribing an eye drop called atropine, and 90% of children do respond to this eye drop, and it demonstrates between a 30 to 60% efficacy in slowing myopia progression. In terms of 90% of the children responding, it's a matter of how high you have to go in the dose. So recently, we've been experimenting with low-dose atropine. However, the lower the dose, the less likely you'll get an efficacious effect. The higher the dose, the more likely you'll get side effects like dilation, glare, and loss of accommodation. It's important to note that atropine has been used since the 1970s with no issues, but in the United States, as practitioners, we have difficulty because it is an off-label prescription. It's made through compounding pharmacies, and therefore it's not covered by formularies, and even the clinic visit is out of pocket. Optical interventions are another common intervention that helps slow down myopia. So my site, made by CooperVision, is the one and only FDA-approved myopia control product on the market right now, and it does demonstrate good efficacy on 9 to 12-year-olds. Ortho-K is popular in China and other parts of Asia. This is a rigid contact lens worn overnight. You don't have to wear any correction during the day, and this actually also slows down myopia. This does require strict hygiene compliance because you are at risk of infection and possible corneal ulcer if you don't have good hygiene for Ortho-K. And finally, spectacle control lenses is where a lot of innovation is happening. These are glasses with special defocus or light scatter designs. They're non-invasive, really good for young children because they're just an alteration to glasses. And examples include the Stellest and the SightGlass Dot, and currently not available in the US, unfortunately. So managing myopia is difficult because it takes a lot of seat time. And so you have to have cycloplegic refraction, axial length. You have to have a long discussion with the parents and the family about what the risk factors and history are, come up with a plan that fits the lifestyle, and monitor every 3 to 6 months with repeated axial lengths and cycloplegic refractions. So another large space in myopia to mention is myopia management suites. For example, the Maya that Topcon has, which they'll go over as well. This aims to make managing myopia easier by having a biometer that has nomogram data and easily shown to parents. So finally, I want to show you this is the current projection of myopia control in the United States. So right now, the global myopia management market is estimated at 8 to 10 billion, and with a growth rate of about 14.5% to maybe be around 25 billion in 2030. However, this pie is not fixed. We can continue to grow this because there is a rare opportunity here with a nascent market and a lot of innovation to continue to safeguard our children's vision and innovate in this field. Okay, with that, I'll have Rupe come up and talk about the myopia market as he sees it.
If anybody needs a copy of the deck, feel free to scan the QR code. My contact information's there as well. We love pictures of wonderful kids smiling with glasses on, right? And it's important that we have these positive images of children with glasses to protect their self-esteem. But it's also important for us to remember as eye care professionals that any amount of myopia, it's abnormal. And that's due to the adult onset sight-threatening disease risk that it poses. And this disease risk, it's only going to get worse. By the year 2050, 5 billion people will actually be myopic. In terms of market size, already, as it stands today, North America is responsible for about 1/3 of the entire market. This market is estimated to grow, as Jonathan had mentioned, by the year 2030 to at least $3.6 billion. We actually think it's going to be more than that, currently growing at a 13.7% CAGR. And so what's going to accelerate the development of this myopia market is going to be the approval of those spectacle lenses that Jonathan was talking about. And so optical retailers will start to get involved, and that's going to create a tipping point within the industry itself. It's going to create a tipping point because the ease of prescribing, the minimization of the current workflow disruptions with myopia management, and the enormous profitability of these myopia control spectacle lenses. And so think about it this way. You're taking your least profitable customer segment, kids, single vision, 2 pair for $49, 2 pair for $99, and you're putting them into the premium price point for a progressive lens, which is about $300. Not only that, that starts at the age of 17. They come back year after year after year until the age of 18. So you have got this built-in retention network already in place. You're taking your least productive hour of the day, which is the 3 o'clock hour in eye care, and you're making it as productive as an orthodontist's office. So the U.S. market presents a massive opportunity due to rising prevalence, higher income levels, and myopic families. As it stands today, 57% of children between the ages of 7 and 17 are already myopic. We know that prevalence increases with income levels, so that these patients and these families make great customers due to their purchasing power. In myopic environments, not genetics, myopic environments create myopic households. So there's an opportunity to capture the entire family. There's a consumer insight that says, I trusted you with my child's eyes, and you did a great job. Now I trust you with the entire family. Current doctor beliefs present a significant risk to myopia adoption. A recent AOA survey boiled it down to the lack of equipment, the lack of clinical education, and the perceived lack of affordability. Doctors, they don't like to sell, right? They're focused clinically on high refractive error and large myopic shifts. And as Jonathan had mentioned, every diopter matters. So by then, it's already too late, as opposed to focusing on the gold standard, which is axial length outside of age-based norms, which is actually number 5 on their list. So what are the current behaviors, and how do we shift them to the desired behaviors and beliefs that we have? Current beliefs, we need to move them away from myopia is a benign, refractive condition, and it's absolutely normal, to myopia is a diseased state, and any amount of myopia is abnormal. We need to move them away from this perceived burden of selling, provide them the tools, resources, and support to their purpose, which is I'm protecting children's sight from adult onset sight-threatening disease. Move them away from I'm going to start prescribing when I see high refractive error or large myopic shifts to I'm going to prescribe when I see axial length outside of age-based norms. Due to their large footprints, optical retailers can strategically dominate these markets, starting within their own 4 walls by screening young children for axial length outside of age-based norms, developing referral networks with pediatrics, helping them, number 1, understand that this is out there, number 2, that you actually treat it, and developing a system to co-manage these patients and close the loop on it. And then lastly, it is partnerships with local schools and ensuring that those 50% of children that fail school screenings actually have somewhere to go. Enterprise-level customers can further dominate these markets by focusing in on these 3 areas. Start with doctor beliefs and staff behaviors. Find your 5 to 15% change champions. Have a playbook ready to go. We like Leading Change by John Cotter. Everybody knows his HB article that came out in the 90s. Test your marketing and pricing. Test it against myopia control language. Make sure it's brand right for you. Test your pricing not only with parents, but also with your providers to ensure that there's perceived affordability. Reach out in social media and connect with moms, as they're the key decision makers in this entire process. The Nextdoor app is a great way to do that. And then budget and plan for equipment, inventory, and assortment. Budget for the biometers that Jonathan had mentioned. Plan your inventory and assortment to optimize it for younger children so you can service these patients for myopia control. So that's the myopia market. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Many thanks for having me today. So, myopia management. If you look at this landscape global landscape of children with myopia today, what we can see is roughly 94% of corrected myopic children wear today single vision lenses. And about 5% of children today benefit from myopia control solutions, myopia control interventions. And we see if among also corrected children with single vision lenses, there are also contact lens wearers as well. And sometimes we have also dual spectacle wearers and contact lenses solutions. If you ask me how this picture has changed over the last 5 years, if I look back at the same estimation done by our company to 2018, picture is slightly different, but not that much. Myopia control with top of the pyramid was about 1-3%. So 5 years later, we are at 5. And correction with single vision lenses was 90%. Okay, so we have a lot to do together. So now, how we as a company we would like to elevate myopia management as a standard of care. So first of all, very important pillar in our company is focus on fundamental research and innovations, based on which we can supply you with evidence-based product, such as EssilorLuxottica. And of course, we also need to support eye care professionals in order to improve patients' outcomes. And then also we very well connected with scientific society. And we're working on the market access, and we'll have a discussion later on here about this. And also we need to connect with governments as well. And public awareness, very important, my previous colleague explained here. So I'm a global chair of Myopia Coalition. And this Myopia Coalition includes today several companies, but also scientific society and professional bodies. And our goal is to raise public awareness on childhood myopia. So EssilorLuxottica is part of this global coalition, Johnson & Johnson, Cooper Vision. We recently have a new member, Santen, as well. As example, United Healthcare, and we have also World Society of Pediatric Ophthalmology, Strabismus as well, our member, International Myopia Institute, so to give you a few examples. So now if you look at the generation of myopia control spectacle lenses over the last 45 years. So the first generation of progressive lenses has been progressive lenses, and we as a company, also Essilor in the past, supported very first clinical trial with progressive lenses, and it took place in France. Then we had also bifocals, also prismatic bifocals. So efficacy of progressive lenses was so-so, about 10 up to 15%. Bifocals had a great efficacy, and prismatic bifocals even better efficacy. And then also market benefit from peripheral defocus lenses with low efficacy. And you see here, like from 18th until 2020 and 2025, today we had a different development, and all started really like a disruption in terms of innovation was really happened in 2017, 2018. And those three innovations are very important to highlight. So based on simultaneous competing defocus, so DIMS technology, highly aspherical lenses spectacles, so EssilorLuxottica lenses based on volume of non-focused light, and also diffusion optics technology by side glass vision. So disruption happened really about this time. And we have a lot of clinical data today available. But what is going to happen in the next 10 years? What will be the new technology and also mechanism of action? So if you look at the available solutions today, well, progressive lenses, bifocals, the available peripheral defocus lenses as well, those new technologies, and efficacy over 2 years, you see how it varies. And of course, the novel solutions, they benefit from the greatest technology. I also put on this chart data 1964 because it was very first international myopia conference which took place in New York. And at this conference, very first clinical trial was presented, atropine high dosage, so 1%. So we see here this timeline, very interesting timeline of all these interventions, how it happened. And so here the resources to substantiate previous slide. I would like to share with you also today this recent systematic review which was published in January 2025 with network meta-analysis which includes 74 studies. This research was done by a group of ophthalmologists from Denmark. So this meta-analysis included more than 12,000 participants aged from 6 to 18 years old, and most of the study were conducted in Asian populations. And actual lens measurement after 1 year of treatment were reported in 71 studies, so in most of the studies. And the researchers, they concluded that the most significant efficacy in terms of axial elongation, which is key parameter to evaluate myopia evolution, was red light therapy, orthokeratology, atropine high dosage 1%, and also number 4 is spectacle lenses with highly spherical lensing. And you see also there are all spectacle lenses also on this chart, such as DIMS lenses as well, of course, side glass dot technology, and also MySight contact lenses as well. So, about highly spherical lenses spectacles. So if you go to the literature available today online, this is the name what you will see in the articles, highly spherical lenses spectacles. The commercial name is EssilorLuxottica. So currently they are not available in the US, not approved by FDA. FDA granted breakthrough designation device to EssilorLuxottica lenses in May 2021, and currently, as we speak, we currently running clinical trial to have a market access, and we will inform you in due time when it will be done. And breakthrough designation device was granted because based on our clinical trial we carried out in China, and this was allows also to launch lenses, and lenses are available today in 45 countries as we speak. So I would like to give you this also snapshot of this first pivotal clinical trial which took place in China in Wenzhou Medical University. Clinical trial started in 2018, and here you have the timeline. So we just released 6-year data, and the 7th year is currently ongoing, and we will stop at 7th year. So 7th year's data are to come. So what you see here is a cumulative effect over 6 years. For spherical equivalent, you see here we have nearly 2 diopters, and in terms of actual elongation, 0.81 millimeters. So very promising results. We learned a lot from this clinical trial, and this is why in terms of myopia management, our questions to answer today with our research and development team. So first, to understand retinal eye growth modulation. As we speak, our research development team is running study with in collaboration with Institut de la Vision in France. We would like to understand what is happening at the level of retina, how retina can regulate our growth, what is happening, what are the retinal cells responsible for this. So the first outputs suggest that retina can respond to the signal of defocus. And how? By computing the local spatial contrast, and also by answering to spherical aberrations. This will help us to define finally these outputs, how we can provide the most efficacious optical signal for myopia control. But also what we know after 6 years of this clinical trial, and we run different clinical trials in different countries as well, in post-market as well, we know that there is also high variability sometimes. Where responders, where also kids, they stopped progressing, but also where children, they don't respond. And also children, the actual lens growth is shrinking as well. So we would like to analyze all this in order to improve our, of course, our product and future innovations. Also will be very important for us also to understand the biomedical and genetic pathway of eye elongation. And all this in order to target better therapeutical interventions. So finally, Further consideration and advancement to consider myopia risk factors, delaying myopia onset. It's much more efficient instead of controlling myopia, and we already have currently evidence-based data from China. Chinese clinicians already published articles and using planar Stellius lenses for pre-myopic children. Treatment customization targeting specific patient's profile, again, based on our learnings, responders, non-responders, and combination therapy, of course. And we would like also to work on the characterization of cell-specific signaling pathway in order to improve, again, myopia management control solutions. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Olga. So we're going to transition into the panel session. So Jonathan, you kick it off.
All right, Patrick, let's go to you first. So we've heard a little bit about the current paradigm in myopia management and optical solutions, but we're all very excited to hear about Sydnexis. And so how do you see an FDA-approved eye drop changing up the scene?
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan, and thanks, everybody. Really, really great discussions up there. What we've seen now is we see a lot of devices that are approved to treat myopia in this population. There's 27 million kids currently in the U.S. So when you have that kind of population, you need a lot of options to treat these kids. So it's pretty clear from what we've heard, what we've seen, that there's no one solution fits all in this area. It's going to be a combination of devices. It's going to be a combination of environmental change of behavior, right? Environmental habits. And what we're trying to do at Sydnexis is create the first pharmaceutical that's approved to treat myopia management in kids. And when you think about these kids, every kid's different. They're all some are active, some are more sedentary, but the active kids that will require a slightly different treatment protocol than a more sedentary kid. You know, swimmers tend not to like to wear lenses or anything like that, so they like the Ortho-K overnight, for example. So what we've done is, as you know, atropine has been successful over the years without an FDA approval in treating myopia progression in kids. And what we've done is really spent the last 7 to 10 years trying to come up with a formulation that will actually work. It turns out atropine's a lot more challenging than most people think to deliver in a FDA kind of commercially viable product format. And that's what we've spent a lot of our time doing. We've kind of stayed under the radar. And now we're at a point where we've filed our NDA with the FDA. We filed the MAA in Europe and received a positive opinion from the CHMP. So expecting approval in Europe in a month or so, which is really exciting for us. And we're about 5 or 6 months behind in the US right now. But we're really hoping that we can provide that one drop at night before the kids go to bed solution. So it's going to be brush your teeth, take your drop, go to bed. And that'll work all day. You take a single drop. But that's going to be combined with spectacles. It's going to be combined with behavior. And not all spectacles are going to work the same in all these kids. So it really is going to be a multi-faceted approach.
Yeah, that's great. I can speak on behalf of the providers that we're really excited for this. Right now, myopia tends to be a cash pay field. So I feel like this would be a long way in democratization of being able to treat myopia. But does this mean that the payers would be on board to now actually try to contribute to atropine and myopia control? Because right now, they've been mostly unwilling to be a part of this.
Yeah, that's a great question. United Healthcare has a vision division, right, an eye care vision division. And the CEO of that division recently joined the Global Myopia Awareness Coalition, which we're also members of, because they see this wave of 27 million kids coming through the pipeline that could hit their budget, right? So that's a very real, eye-opening phenomenon that's happening with the payers. So we've talked to more than a handful of payers. We've fielded anonymous research from dozens of payers. And the overall theme is that, yeah, this is absolutely a reimbursable type of treatment. It's a drop. It's a pharmaceutical drop. And so it should fall under a pharmaceutical benefit, like most of the other drops that we deal with. And so it is going to be, it's going to bring a lot of kids into the healthcare system that aren't currently in the healthcare system. And so It's great for doctors, right? It's great for practitioners. We just had a panel at ASCRS last week where, how do you make money treating myopia? I'm like, well, there's 27 million kids coming through. Figure it out, right? There's a lot of different, we talked about devices that were going to be used to measure the myopia in kids. There's glasses. There's behavioral paradigms that are being evolved. So there's a lot of, there's a wave coming in right now, and the healthcare providers are very aware of it. And they're very willing to participate in it, by the way, too.
Right, so if the payers are now willing to pay for these treatments, then it'll further drive innovation because this will be a space worth entering. All right, Matt, let's come to you. So your company, Blink Frames, they use technology to try to monitor lifestyle factors. Can you tell us more about the whole technology landscape and how Blink fits in?
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan, and thank you for the invitation here today. So it's basically started with parent surveys, just asking parents, you know, how many hours a day has your kid been outside, and how many hours a day have they've been on screens. And then some research, there's been some research devices such as smartwatches that have monitored outdoor time. But unfortunately, when you compare the data, it's not a really good match. And so the parent questionnaires are just not reliable. And so there is a product in Asia called the Clue Clip, which is a lot of technology that is attached to a pair of glasses. It kind of sticks out, and it gets, it tracks near work, and it tracks outdoor time. But then the product that I'm excited to co-develop is the Blink Frames. I'm actually wearing the adult version of the frames. It's actually working right now. And it tracks outdoor time as well as screen time. And it also tracks frame wear time, which can help with if people do have myopia lenses, as that 5% of myopia specialized lenses grows, we track that. And it actually tracks patch time as well for amblyopic patients. And the kind of fun part about it is it's a really cool creative app that we put together. And it actually has, like, we gamified it a bit. So there's actually like digital sort of prizes for kids to get as they meet their goals, yeah.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
So what we learned from our clinical trials that if children will wear spectacle lenses for at least 12 hours a day, efficacy is going up significantly. So very important, so yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like there could be a synergy with frame wear time, actual metrics, and then dose dependency of the Essilor or other spectacle myopia control. Okay, so Daniel, this is a use case of AI. How do you feel about it? And what other trends in AI and myopia do you see coming up?
Yeah, thanks, John. I think just to share, I think the myopia's the space from Singapore standpoint, we pride ourselves as the myopia capital of the world, and Olga knows that in a bad way. So I mean, right now, I think we started the myopia research for more than 20 years now, and the first cohort of the myopia, you know, the kids that we actually recruited, they are all in their 20s and 30s right now. So given the long-term database that we collected, so one of the, like what Jonathan is aware, we have actually used the baseline data to actually start building different types of AI-based algorithms to prognosticate some, you know, these kids from fast progressors to the slow progressors. I think that's one algorithms that we are currently building, and that we've actually published the results in Nature Digital Medicines just a few years ago. The second one is the use of atropine. So I like the idea about you know, brush your teeth, put the drops, and you know, go to bed, and you know, wake up the next day and do it again. So I think the low dose atropine right now is a very commonly practiced you know, therapeutics that many of the general ophthalmologists love to give the kids. And of course, we started with 1%, and then we start, you know, cutting down the dosage to as low as 0.1 and 0.01% now. So I think these are some of the things, the different concentrations of the atropines that we have seen in the market. And how do you then actually build AI-based algorithms to predict who are these patients that are going to be responsive to the high-dose atropine versus the low-dose, and who are these patients need a combination of the treatment with the glasses, in addition to, of course, the environmental lifestyles and the red light therapy that Olga has shown. So those are the different types of the AI algorithms right now that we are actually building as well. The last one, I also wanted to bring in the agentic AI in the Gen AI space. Right now, the AI lab that we are currently doing now is not just focusing on myopia, but if you look at ChatGPT or the Gemini or even currently the DeepSeek from China, a lot of the stuff with patient engagement, how do you actually educate the patients? How do you actually increase the stickiness of the apps and the wearables? And how do you actually analyze the multi-modal data? Leveraging our agentic AI is another a new areas that our lab is currently looking at. So just those are the three big areas on the diagnostic prediction and of course the Gen AI space related to myopia space that our lab is currently looking at. Yeah.
That's all very exciting. Thank you for that. Something I wanted to highlight, especially now that we're not at ASCRS and at ARVO, is that we have now included optometrists in this panel and really want to work on a relationship moving forward in myopia, because across the world it depends on the interplay between ophthalmologists and optometrists. So Rupe, there is a complex relationship between optometrists and ophthalmologists in the United States. Can you speak to your vision for how the two fields can work together to make progress and build a better future in myopia?
Yeah, and right now it's a great first step, us all being here together, so I appreciate the vision that you all put together here. I think if I was to think about this, I would say you have research and innovation on one side, you've got implementation and delivery on the other side. So let's just say on the research and innovation, that's largely led by ophthalmology with support from optometry. And then on the implementation and delivery, you have by far and away this category is dominated by optometry with support from pediatric medicine. So if you're an innovator and you want to be able to innovate and do so cost effectively and with short timelines, you're going to need what? You're going to need data, right? So in this equation, who are the data providers? The data is coming from optometry, right? And so if you want to test a hypothesis, you want to test a modality, you want to test an AI algorithm, you're going to need optometry's data. If you want to test the efficacy of your treatment, test the implementation, the delivery, the adoption to ensure it's going to be commercially successful, you're going to need optometrists. I think a great example of that is a small company called Ocumetra, a digital platform that actually Topcon Healthcare and our CVC fund has actually invested in. And that's led by Dr. Ian Flitcroft, who is one of the most world-renowned ophthalmologists. As a matter of fact, I think he was just recently named the top 25 in the world. And he's partnered up with James Lawman, who is a professor of optometry at the college in Dublin. And together they've used data and innovation, but most importantly is they've put in adoption as a primary sort of strategic endpoint for them to ensure that it's going to be commercially successful. And it's working. So they've seen quite a bit of traction in a very short period of time as of recent. So I think you could do it alone if you want to do it through ophthalmology, but it's going to cost you a heck of a lot more money, and it's going to be a lot longer to be successful to do so.
And Matt, this is something you've expressed to me as well, that we really need to get into the market by using optometrists, their optical shops, because we don't see just regular low to moderate myopes walking around in our ophthalmology clinics, but these are the people that are driving growth in the field, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so we're doing a price point where it's kind of low friction into the optometry space, and it scales really well. I think the idea there really is to, from the very first line of defense, start to change those behaviors, right? So we talked about gamifying the app and things like that, and also including the spectacle lens right up front as well when it's approved and available. That first line of defense is a great way to just from the onset, the second they have myopia, why not just do these things? If the cash pay is there. And that would be on the optometry level, of course, yeah.
So, this is one of the real questions that we have on the academy side, which is, if you look at the total number of kids in the country who are covered by Medicaid or CHIP, It's about 50%. 30% Medicaid, then another 20% CHIP. That's 50% of kids where families don't have money. And we're having a lot of conversation about, what is the revenue opportunity, but if you look outside of the US, even beyond, once you start talking about multimodal treatment, you go beyond drops, there are some significant health equity issues that potentially arise. How do we address those?
Yeah, maybe I take that, Stephen. I think I can't agree more, right? I mean, we talk about the market between the US and outside US market. We talk about the relationship between ophthalmologists, optometrists, and opticians and different markets, especially in Asia, for example. The optometrists may not have as much, the prescriptive, the rights as compared to ophthalmologists. For example, in Singapore, optometrist is not allowed to prescribe the cycloplegic drops in order to actually check the patients for the real refractive status. So I think that actually then turned the myopia care towards more of the general ophthalmologist, the hand. And I like the idea how the data is actually lies on the optometrist's hand, which is correct, because I mean the first point when the kids can't see in school, I mean, the first, the response is to actually bring the kids to the optical shops to get their eyesight checked. So I think those are the differences, in terms of how, if you were to actually, build something in US and you were to bring it to the Asia Pacific markets, I think this is where the complexity of the market will actually start to surface, right? I think that's one point. The second point is that I promised Malvina to actually, mention about what we are trying to address in CCOI, the setting. So basically, if you look at the endpoint as well, even within the US market right now, how do we define the efficacy of the treatment? This is where I think the consensus is not very well agreed, between the different groups, between the different countries. I think that's one. And the second thing is, how do you even define myopia being a disease? Is it a disease? Like even a simple, the questions like this actually does actually, sparks lots of debates. And when we actually talk about who to pay, this is where the government, the willingness to pay, if it's not a disease, is going to hit their pocket in a very significant manner. Not many people, including the government and the insurance, are willing to pay. So I think these are some of the, the complexity when we actually try to talk about myopia care. Again, the willing, the paying, customers is all going to be private because it's all going to, come from the parents, the pocket. So I think this is just the 2 points that I just wanted to highlight. And yeah, but I mean, CCOI right now, under Malvina's leadership, we hope to actually address some of these, but I don't think we would actually find easy answers to that. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a real hot topic, and I guarantee if we talk about this next year, some of our answers will be a little bit different, right? So we're kind of in the Wild West as far as figuring this out. Myopia historically has been a disease of the highly educated and wealthy, right? It's been people who do this a lot. That's reading books, it's studying, and historically that has not been an issue. A lot of that population has been able to be addressed. So now what we have is we have a very unique healthcare problem because this is no longer studying, this is no longer highly educated, right? So what we're seeing is this shift from private pay, right? This is not a Medicare issue, right? These are kids, it's not Medicare. So it's private pay, and now it's moving into Medicaid, right? We're seeing this massive Medicaid population. In our study, we were in the largest study ever conducted in the US in myopia, probably globally ever, and we had 850 kids, and what was really surprising to me was how many of those kids were actually on Medicaid in our study. And so that's a big deal, and we have to figure that out.
All right, so speaking about regulation, Olga, I do have a question for you, especially as a provider. I'm dying for these glasses to come out because they're great for young children and non-invasive, no eye drops, no crying at night. What differences in the regulatory pathway are you navigating here in the United States versus your experience in other countries?
Yes, so I'm based in France already, so Europe is very different landscape because in Europe spectacle lenses are, even for myopia control, Biomedical device class 1. So we just need to, so of course we could launch lenses based on our promising clinical trial results from China, but journey is very different. So in the US, we obtain this breakthrough designation device based on our Chinese clinical trial, and clinical study is ongoing because we need to meet the requirements from FDA. Just give another example. In Japan, you know, PMDA, so Japanese FDA is quite similar to the US. And for a long time, we considered also, like, in, you know, the high prevalence in Japan, kids under 6 in Tokyo, myopic, 50% of kids under 6 in Tokyo are already myopic. So Ministry of Health and the group of ophthalmologists in Japan, finally we decided to give give opportunity to go with medical device class 1 in Japan with spectacle lenses. It took a little time, but finally it's open. So again, maybe question to Malvina again. So we do what we need to do to meet requirements of FDA, and yeah, we hopefully also it will come.
Maybe we should invite Olga to join our CCY meeting tomorrow, right?
With pleasure.
And Sunday, yeah.
I'm here.
Well, thank you so much to all of our panelists. This has been such a great discussion. I could have you guys all day here, but I'm sure the rest of the audience does not want that. So a special thanks for Daniel for coming from Singapore and Olga from France. Thank you all.